I'm here with Prue Lamerton, who's just been included in this year's New Year's Honours list. Kia ora, Prue, and thanks for joining me.
Kia ora, thank you.
Now, Prue, you're based in Hawke's Bay, and you've just been named as to the Order of New Zealand Merit for your work in nuclear medicine. That sounds very intriguing. Tell us a bit about why you've been recognised. What work have you done to be recognised for this?
I think I've been in the field since I qualified since 1978, and I've been working continuously since then. So it's over 4 decades now, and it's been a passion and a drive of mine just to see the New Zealand nuclear medicine world recognised worldwide, and I've been a big part of that. And I've been a part of developing a lot of new strategies and fields within the nuclear medicine side of things. I was a part of the setup of the first PET CT in Wellington back in 2007. And that was with Dr. Trevor Fitzjohn, who himself was awarded an ONZM as well. And I have I moved up here to Hawke's Bay in 2009, and after a very busy time of my life down there, working very long hours because we were relying on having the radioactive tracer arrive from Melbourne, so we would rely on a flight arriving at 2 in the afternoon, and we'd be working late with our patients. So it was sort of time to move up to Hawke's Bay and hopefully try and get a PET CT scanner set up here. And just to go back a bit, do you know anything about nuclear medicine?
My next question was going to be, what is nuclear medicine?
Well, it is a way of looking at the function of all organs. CT and MRI will give you a lot of detailed information about the anatomy and basically the shape and outline of organs. But nuclear medicine will look at the function of organs. And in particular, PET scanning is not the fairy type of PETs. I'm talking about humans, and I'm talking about staging and management of cancer mainly. And I tried to advocate for it at Hawke's Bay Hospital when I was there for since 2009. I worked up until I worked up until the beginning of this year there.
Okay.
And I also started with Canopy Imaging because they approached me to help them set up this PET scanner here for our Hawke's Bay patients. And it's a therapy centre and a PET scanning centre. And now it means our patients in Hawke's Bay do not have to travel to Auckland or Wellington or Hamilton any longer to have this imaging available. So it's a very important type of imaging, which I must admit, when I left school, I had no idea what it was. There was nothing in the careers advice about nuclear medicine, certainly in those days. And it was just fortuitous that my father, who was an optometrist, had a patient who was a nuclear medicine physician, and he said they were looking for a student. So I thought, great, So that's how I started, and spent many years at the Wellington Hospital, then many years at Pacific Radiology, and then up here in Hawke's Bay. But I suppose I've been on a lot of committees for New Zealand and for Australia and New Zealand with the professional bodies. I've spent over 9 years on the New Zealand Medical Radiation Technologists Board, including chairing it. And I've had a great career as far as being awarded the ANZSNM, which is the Australian and New Zealand Society of Nuclear Medicine, Dr. Elizabeth Bailey Award for my services to nuclear medicine.
Wow.
It's recognised in Australasia. And then in 2005, I presented in New Orleans on selective internal radiation therapy treatment, which we were the first to do at Pacific Radiology, along with Dr. Richard Stubbs, who lives up here now and runs the Heathrow Research Lab. So I worked with him with this, giving this selective internal radiation therapy for bowel cancer, which had gone to the liver. And we were one of the first in the world to do that. And I presented a paper and actually won the best technologist paper in America as well. So there's been a few achievements.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Loved it, and I've loved advocating for New Zealand nuclear medicine and driving that we just keep moving forward and really embracing the technology.
How has that technology changed over the years, and what impact has it had on people who are living with cancer?
Huge impact. So it's changed. To answer the first part of the question, it's changed by when I first started. We had cameras where we would actually have like a Polaroid camera attached to it, and you wouldn't be able to see a scope or a screen, or you wouldn't be able to see what you were imaging until it had finished, and then you'd pull a old Polaroid film. You know how they would develop when you would peel the. So you can imagine all the artifacts with that. So that's my memories of the early days, and to now. And in those days, it wasn't really that much cancer imaging involved with it. We were looking for brain tumours. This is before CT started. We were looking for lung clots. But now the advances are just incredible, and in the way that if you've got a patient going through, for example, lung cancer, and they're on a treatment, chemotherapy regime, they want to see that the chemotherapy is actually having a good effect and giving them a good response, then we will do a scan for them, and this will just show up areas where there is lung cancer and where it's spread to. So we will be able to see if we do a before and an after their first 3 months of chemotherapy, we'll be able to see what the effect it's had on them. And this means that the patient, if it's not having an effect, change the regime. But before this type of imaging came up, you didn't really have that confidence in what you were doing. So now it's huge. And as well, if a patient is diagnosed with bowel cancer and we image the patient doing a PET CT scan, they're combined, we can say, well, that disease has spread, unfortunately, for the patient all over. There's no point in just operating on what they saw as the one tumour, maybe on another imaging modality. It's actually spread further. So that patient should now go for chemotherapy or radiation therapy. So it does have a huge.
And has it had an impact on early diagnosis and therefore leading to prolonging of life?
Absolutely, yes. And that brings me to the therapy side of things, which we're going to be starting in the new year at the hospital. And it's particularly looking at prostate cancer treatment and neuroendocrine treatment. And it involves injecting a radioactive isotope combined with a molecule that only goes to prostate cancer. So it'll only seek that out. And it will target. It has a very short rays of activity, so it spares all the normal tissue around it, but it's only for a certain staging of the cancer. It improves the quality of life. It's not going to cure, but it's going to give you quality for a longer period.
Now, liver tumours and that also seem to have been one of the first things you focused on, and that. Tell us a bit more about that.
That was injecting these essentially sort of little glass microspheres with radiation, yttrium radiation, into the patient through the hepatic artery just into the liver, and it would stay in the liver and just radiate, and it would go to the liver tumours because they have a particular, they develop a particular type of blood flow. And so the selective internal radiation therapy would only go there, and it would spare all the normal tissue around it. And I remember that we actually had a patient who was in his 40s who contacted Dr. Stubbs, and he's Professor Stubbs now, isn't he? Professor,
yes,
and asked if he could possibly come over from England because it wasn't available in Europe and it wasn't available in the UK. So he came over for the treatment. I don't know the follow-up on him, but it was groundbreaking.
It's the other way around. People going from
I
here to
know.
England.
I
So
know.
that's fantastic. Yeah. Yeah. So just a little bit of your background. So were you born and raised in Wellington and
Yes,
go
I
to school
was.
there?
Yes,
And
born and raised
what are
in
your
Wellington.
qualifications?
I went to Queen Margaret College and I came out and went straight into this, and it was a diploma in those days because it's back in the 70s.
Yeah.
So it's a diploma in nuclear medicine at the Central Institute of Technology that was out in Hiratonga.
Okay.
So that
And
was
since then,
since then it's just grown and grown. I've had to do extra CT certification because it used to be only just nuclear medicine, but the cameras have evolved so much with CT now as well. So they're hybrid cameras. So they have the nuclear medicine as well as the CT on them, and we combine the images to give us the great detail of where we're seeing the highlighted areas. So it gives us better confidence in what we're looking at.
now you say you left the hospital at the beginning of this year. So what are you running at the moment? Where are you working at?
Well, I was approached about 2.5 years ago by Dr. West at Canopy Imaging and asked if I would help them set up this molecular imaging centre, it's called, in Murray Place in Hawke's Bay. And to be honest, this is the pinnacle of my career because it is the most fabulous building. We've designed it to be a world-class leading building. There's a shortage of nuclear medicine technologists, so we have to bear in mind that we're running it with very few staff, yet we're not being exposed to a lot of radiation because of the way we've designed it. Going back a step, all these patients that come to us are radioactive because we've injected them with radiation. It's not harmful at all. It decays away very quickly, but we're working with it every day. So we've designed a building and the way we work with it and the workflow that has allowed us to continue working well with the few staff that we have.
It's amazing for Hawke's Bay, but why Hawke's Bay?
Why Hawke's Bay?
Yes, yeah.
Well, it's the first regional molecular imaging and therapy centre in the country. The government has never put any money into putting PET scanners into any hospitals, public hospitals in New Zealand. So it's all now contracted out to private. So you've got it in Hamilton, you've got it in Auckland, in private clinics, in Wellington, and down in Christchurch. So we're the first regional centre to put this molecular imaging and therapy in. So as I said, so our patients don't have to travel, because when you're going through the cancer journey, the last thing you want to do when you're not feeling well is have to leave home, leave the family, go up and have these scans, possibly stay overnight, pay for it yourself, possibly all the travel, deal with big city traffic. There's all sorts of impacts.
That's a stressful journey, absolutely. There seems to be a lot of cancer around. I mean, everyone knows someone who's got cancer. Are we, I don't know if you can say winning the war, but do you think we're better placed to deal with it? And I know that's a sort of a difficult question to answer.
Well, the way I look at it is I think that there is more cancer around because we're getting better at diagnosing it, and people are becoming more educated as to what to look for. And we weren't back in the 70s or in the 60s or in the 80s even. But as the technology has increased, we're becoming better at diagnosing and looking at responses and treating, because the technology is just growing like that.
The national government, and I don't want to get political, but when they came in, they promised a whole lot of cancer drugs and that. And they, at one point, it looked like they weren't going to fulfill that promise, but they have. Have you seen a difference since then in terms of the drugs that are available?
We've only been open for 6 weeks now,
Okay.
so I haven't actually seen an impact myself. I've been sort of focusing on other things and getting the camera going, but I'm sure there will be an impact, and it will be interesting to watch.
Now, obviously, this is going to become public at New Year and that. How are you celebrating?
New Year.
Well, how are you
Actually,
celebrating this award? Yeah.
I don't know. Actually, we're going down to look after babysit our granddaughter down in Martinborough over the New Year period. So we'll be with some of the family, and because nobody else knows yet apart from my husband. So
Oh,
yeah.
that's good. Well, was he pleased for you when you heard?
Very.
I suppose he's lived the journey with you.
Well, he's lived the job, and he's been really supportive, and he's retired now, and he just allows me to carry on. He makes it easy for me to carry on and work some long hours because he does a lot around the home.
Prue Lamerton, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and congratulations again.
Thank you.